Herzlich willkommen. Die Musik ist aus, wir fangen an. Wir haben ganz ein bisschen Verspätung, wir haben eine Spezialsituation heute. Jemand von unseren Teilnehmerinnen in der Diskussion und den Keynotes hat nicht kommen, weil es am Flughafen Komplikationen gegeben hat. Das ist Sookee. Sie ist per Skype zugeschaltet, darum haben wir jetzt schnell 2 Minuten mehr gebraucht, bis wir alle parat sind. Danke für eure Geduld. Vorhergehend schnell 1-2 Bemerkungen. Ihr wisst, Music ist eine Veranstaltung vom Mikrokulturprozent. Da kann man immer mal wieder ein bisschen dankbar sein, dass das jedes Jahr stattfindet. Dann haben wir Leute in den verschiedensten Sprachen anwesend. Es gibt eine Übersetzung von dem Panel. Es ist teilweise Deutsch und teilweise Englisch. Es gibt Kopfhörer beim Eingang, wo es auf beide richtigen Übersetzungen gibt. For English speakers present here today, we have headphones in the back with translation for all the German parts of these keynotes. Und dann herzlich willkommen, vielen Dank fürs Interesse. Wir haben ein großes Thema, steht hinten auf der Wand, Empowerment, Keychange und Diversität. Wir haben 3 Gäste, 3 Speakerinnen und 3 Perspektiven. Alle haben grundsätzlich aber ein Ziel, mehr Diversität. Über Skype werden wir von Rapperin Sookee hören. Sie schafft Räume, um gesellschaftspolitische Veränderungen voranzutreiben. Macht das vor allem mit Musik, aber auch ganz feinem Aktivismus. Dann haben wir vom Projekt Keychange Jess Partridge bei uns aus London. Keychange ist vor allem bekannt für ihr Projekt, dass sie eine 50-50-Quote anstreben bei großen Festivals und den Acts, die da gebucht werden. Und dann ist Esther-Mirjam de Boer bei uns. Sie ist von GetDiversity und bringt mehr Vielfalt in Verwaltungsräte, ist also in der Schweizer Businesswelt tätig. Die Frage ist eigentlich ganz simpel. Wo stehen wir in Sachen Diversität und wohin soll es gehen? Wir werden 3 Keynotes hören, also 3 × 20 Minuten werden unsere Speakerinnen alleine sprechen und am Ende ist das Plenum geöffnet. Ihr dürft alle mitdiskutieren und eure Fragen stellen. Der Anfang, die Keynote von Sookee wird auf Deutsch sein. Danach wechseln wir auf Englisch und die Diskussion wird in Englisch stattfinden. Habt keine Angst, ihr dürft ganz einfach auf Deutsch fragen. Ich werde das jeweils dann übersetzen für die Diskussion. Also haltet euch nicht zurück. Dann legen wir los. Via Skype direkt aus Berlin dürfen wir Sookee begrüßen. Sie bringt Dinge zusammen in ihrer Kunst, in ihrem Leben, die für viele Menschen nicht zusammenpassen. Politik und Party, Queer-Feminismus und deutscher Hip-Hop, Subkultur und Mainstream. Und es geht ihr direkt darum, vermeintliche Widersprüche eben aufzubrechen, neue Schnittmengen zu kreieren. Sie ist unterwegs als Rapperin, sie ist Buchautorin, Künstlerin und Mutter. Und interessant, ihre Pose, die Kultur leistet einen genau gleich wichtigen Beitrag wie eine Parteiversammlung zu Dingen, die in unserer Gesellschaft passieren. Herzlich willkommen via Skype. Ganz schön, dass das trotzdem klappt. Sookee.
Hallöchen, Hallöchen. So, jetzt ist es sehr technisch und aufregend für mich, weil ich sehe mich jetzt gar nicht. Ich gucke jetzt einfach in mein Zimmer hinein und habe den Bildschirm vor mir. Aber ihr seht mich und hört mich, hoffe ich, das ist alles safe. Ich muss mir nochmal entschuldigen, dass das heute nicht geklappt hat. Ich hatte wirklich alle Komplikationen, die man haben kann auf einem Weg von der eigenen Wohnung zum Flughafen, um dann auf Socken durch die letzte Halle rennend, nachdem ich da gefilzt wurde und alles ablegen musste, da zurückgewiesen zu werden. Also bitte verzeiht, dass wir diesen Weg wählen. Aber zum Glück gibt es das Internet. So, ja, ich habe euch 20 Minuten mitgebracht zum Thema Queer Feminist Rap Activism. Das rechte Bild dort, was ihr seht, ist ein vorläufiges Buchcover eben zu dem Buch, was rauskommen soll mit dem Titel Awesome Hip-Hop Humans. Queer Femme Rap im deutschsprachigen Raum. Ich mache seit vielen Jahren Mucke und die hat eben einen gewissen politischen Anspruch und einen gewissen politischen Drive. Und ich bin wahrlich nicht die Einzige damit. Und um das mal abzubilden, weil immer wieder gemoppert wird, ach, es gibt niemand und so, sollen wir buchen und Hip-Hop ist so doof und so, war es mir einfach ein Anliegen, mal zusammenzufassen, beziehungsweise zusammenfassen zu lassen, wen es da alles gibt, was wir so tun, warum das fein ist, warum das zuträglich ist, wo es hingehen kann, was kritisch ist, Und deswegen wird das ein schöner Sammelband, den ihr sozusagen an der Stelle mit dem Titel schon mal zu sehen bekommt. Hip-Hop ist in den Medien in den letzten 10 Jahren durch alle möglichen Phasen gegangen. In den Nullerjahren wurde reihenweise noch indiziert und es war von Rüpel-Rappern die Rede. Da wurde viel dämonisiert. Die waren schuld an allem Unheil, an der Gewaltaffinität der Jugend, an der Pornografisierung der Medien und allem Möglichen. Das ist natürlich ein viel zu kurzer Blick. Das hat mich auch damals schon genervt, weil damit eine Gesellschaft das irgendwie irgendwo hin projiziert und sich nicht um die eigene Beteiligung daran kümmert, und das kann es nicht gehen. Also grundsätzlich gilt für das, was ich tue, don't hate the player, hate the game. Manchmal muss man aber auch die Player ein bisschen haten, weil die beitragen. Rap zieht sich oft darauf zurück zu sagen, wir sind nur Spiegel der Gesellschaft, wir haben nichts gemacht. Das passiert alles, auch wenn wir jetzt die Klappe halten und nicht darüber sprechen, ist das sowieso alles problematisch und dann ist es auch egal, wenn wir irgendwie die Schnauze aufreißen. Das glaube ich eben nicht, denn es gibt keine Objektivität in der Welt, es gibt keine objektive 1:1 Abbildung dessen, was in der Gesellschaft passiert. Man schreibt sich immer mit dem eigenen Wissen, den eigenen Diskursen, der eigenen Sprache eben ein und sorgt dafür, dass es eben eine bestimmte Färbung gibt in die eine oder andere Richtung. Das heißt, einerseits ist Rap für Sexismus nicht verantwortlich, hat es nicht erfunden, aber ist doch ganz gut darin, das zu reproduzieren, und das ist halt mein Problem. Letztlich gilt es, das Ganze zu betrachten im Rahmen einer kapitalistischen Gesellschaft, im Rahmen einer kapitalistischen Verwertungslogik. Also das bitte ich euch sozusagen bei dem, was ich euch präsentiere, im Hinterkopf immer mitzudenken. Und bei aller Vielfalt verschiedenster Sounds, verschiedenster Artists, Imagepolitiken, Narrative, Darbietungsstyles und so weiter, gibt es doch trotzdem ein gewisses Klischee, was nicht ohne Grund besteht, nämlich dass Rap im speziellen, Hip-Hop im Allgemeinen, doch sehr phallozentrisch funktioniert, sehr stark männerdominiert. Das sind alles keine Dinge, die ich mir ausdenke, das lässt sich doch recht deutlich absehen. Leider gibt es in diesem Feld wenig Zahlen, wenig Statistiken, die wirklich als Empirie ernst genommen werden können. Ich versuche hier und da sowas wie einen Prozentsatz von aktiven Rapperinnen rauszurechnen. In verschiedenen Beispielen würde jetzt zu weit führen. Was die Quellen sind, lässt sich aber, wer mich anschreiben will, immer gerne auch nachweisen. Wir sind irgendwie auf jeden Fall so um die 2% in der besten Rechnung und um die 0, irgendwas in der schlechtesten. Also die weibliche Beteiligung ist gering. Die Suche nach Gründen passiert für mich schon seit 10, 15 Jahren. Und das hat natürlich viel damit zu tun, dass das Klima, in dem Rap stattfindet, nicht unbedingt behaglich ist für weibliche Personen, wenn andere weibliche Personen oder sozusagen das, was man sich unter Weiblichkeit so vorstellt, sehr stark objektifiziert wird, sexualisiert, pornografisiert und eben dehumanisiert. Also am Ende zählt nicht mehr die Person, das Gesicht, die Geschichten, der Name, die Fantasien, die Skills, die Wünsche, die Einstellung, sondern wenn es ganz schlecht läuft, ist alles, was von dir bleibt, sind das 3 fickbare Löcher. So in der Deutlichkeit kann man das ruhig sagen. Songbeispiele gibt es genug. Ja. Und auch verschiedenste Formen von Männlichkeiten werden sanktioniert und eingeschränkt und auch ausgegrenzt. Sozusagen die Gefahr, als schwul zu gelten, ist immer gegeben. Und schwul zu sein heißt eben Verrat an heterosexueller Männlichkeit zu begehen, indem man sich quasi auf die weibliche Seite schlägt, sich unterwirft, sich bückt, sich ficken lässt. So, das ist der Verrat. Das macht sozusagen den Homo-Hass aus an der Stelle in Bezug auf männliche Homosexualität, auf weibliche Homosexualität. Erübrigt sich das dann, weil weibliche Homosexualität am Ende einfach nur kapitalisiert werden kann, wenn die Leute dann bestimmte Körperbilder und Schönheitsnormen mitbringen und denen entsprechen. Andernfalls sind sie einfach raus und nicht gesehen. Das heißt, einerseits geriert sich Rap immer wieder als so eine rebellische Szene, die sich nichts sagen lässt und so. Die nennen sich alle Staatsfeinde und so und sind ganz irgendwie gegen irgendwas, ja, gegen das Establishment. Gerne auch immer gegen die da oben. Also den Hang zum antisemitischen Narrativ gibt es auch. Gleichzeitig sind sie aber super konservativ, was ihre Werte angeht. Also eben die Idee, dass man im Kapitalismus glücklich werden kann und dass patriarchale und heteronormative Wahrheiten die einzigen sind, was eben sich in heterosexistischen Äußerungen dann zeigt. Nichtsdestotrotz liebe ich Rap. Ich liebe das. Mir macht das Spaß. Ich feiere Rap. Ich mag die Mucke. Ich mag Hip-Hop im Allgemeinen, dass es so viele unterschiedliche Möglichkeiten gibt, sich auszudrücken. Durch Breakdance, durch DJing, Graffiti, Beatboxing und so weiter. Man braucht eigentlich nicht viel. Alle Menschen sind dazu da, sich dafür zu interessieren, Lust mit die Hürden sind eigentlich recht gering, um sich zu beteiligen. Und trotzdem gibt es halt eben eine Atmosphäre, die dafür sorgt, dass Frauen sich und Queers sich in der Tendenz wenig beteiligen. Und das gilt es natürlich zu ändern, weil ich will mich ja wohlfühlen und ich will mit den Leuten feiern, auf die ich Bock habe und nicht auf diejenigen, die mich kacke finden. Erstmal aus Prinzip. Deswegen habe ich mich in den letzten 10, 15 Jahren, ich schreibe mal eher von einer Dekade, weil ich ja auch eine Weile gebraucht habe, mich da überhaupt erst hinzubewegen, mich ausreichend zu politisieren und meine Arbeit so aufzustellen, dass ich mir das auch selber zutrauen kann, laut zu sagen, was mich nervt. Und das ist insofern ein großer Widerspruch gewesen, weil natürlich komme ich aus einer jugendlichen Zeit, also mittlerweile bin ich 35, aber als 16-, 17-, 18-Jährige war natürlich für mich das einzige Ziel, von den Jungs anerkannt zu werden. Und dass ich das nicht schaffe, die zu guten Feministen zu machen, so in der Gesamtheit, musste ich halt lernen. Das heißt, ich muss auch damit lernen, dass die mich halt richtig scheiße finden, dass ich für viele Leute irgendwie so das Feindbild bin. Aber das ist in Ordnung, weil gleichzeitig sich auch einfach viel getan hat, nämlich sozusagen, mir wurden die Möglichkeiten gegeben, in queeren, linken, antifaschistischen, feministischen Räumen auf die Bühne zu gehen und festzustellen, okay, hier gibt es Leute, die freuen sich sogar darüber, wenn eine Frau auf der Bühne steht, die finden das nicht irritierend oder beschissen, sondern die fördern das sogar und sind auch mit den Inhalten, um die es mir geht, gut. Und die peilen, wenn ich bestimmte Begriffe nicht sagen will und die peilen, wenn es für mich darum geht, irgendwie möglichst viel Geld zu machen. Das heißt, ich habe da in linken Räumen ein politisches Zuhause gefunden, in dem ich musikalisch tätig sein konnte. Und das halt dafür gesorgt, dass ganz viele Leute nach und nach damit reingewachsen sind. Das heißt, der Versuch tatsächlich so eine Subszene zu schaffen, das, was ich eben als Queer Femme Rap bezeichne, das hat tatsächlich über die Jahre geklappt, was sehr schön ist. Und das hat aber auch damit zu tun, dass man sich politisch nochmal sensibilisieren muss an Stellen, weil es reicht halt eben nicht zu sagen, okay, das sind alle Sexisten und Queerfeinde, die sind falsch und schlecht. Man muss natürlich auch schauen, in welchen gesellschaftlichen Kontexten sind die sozialisiert, welche gesellschaftlichen Bedingungen haben auf die 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 Jahre eingewirkt, dass sie halt eben sexistisch und queerphob werden. Und was hat das eben mit Rassismus und Klassismus zu tun? Das heißt, ich habe über die Jahre nicht nur Mucke gemacht, sondern auch Vorträge gemacht und bin über viele Gespräche und das weitere Lernen sozusagen zunehmend auf den Trichter gekommen, das auch ein Stück ins Verhältnis zu setzen zu dem, was diese Menschen dazu veranlasst, tatsächlich weil der Sexismus ist schon wirklich sehr explizit. Es ist teilweise schon wirklich hart. Ich glaube, dass sich viele Leute, die so gar nicht in so Battle-Rap-Selbstverständlichkeiten eingestiegen sind, sich überhaupt vorstellen können, was das bedeutet, sich so Songs anzuhören, wo halt Leuten die Existenzberechtigung abgesprochen wird, es sei denn, sie gehen auf die Knie und lutschen irgendeines Rappers Schwanz. Ja? Also es gibt Songs, die wirklich sehr, sehr heftig sind, die sehr krass sind. Und selbst diejenigen, die nicht so super explizit sind, haben nicht die besten Frauenbilder. Also es gibt auch genügend Leute, die bestimmte Begriffe vermeiden, einfach aus Gründen der Wirtschaftlichkeit. Das heißt, sie verhindern so, dass sie indiziert werden, indem sie auf bestimmte Wörter verzichten, bestimmte sprachliche Bilder verzichten. Weil wenn man sie in Interviews reden hört, sind sie nicht minder sexistisch. Und das zeigt sich auch teilweise in Songs. Genau, also worum es mir eben geht, ist festzustellen, okay, ihr seid nicht einfach nur schlechte Menschen, dass ihr das tut und feiert, also dass ihr das tut und verkauft auf der einen Seite und die anderen, dass ihr das feiert und eben affirmiert, sondern auch ihr seid irgendwie gesellschaftlich gemacht und die Frage vor jeder Handlung könnte natürlich lauten, wie geht gesellschaftliche Veränderung? Deswegen nicht zu dämonisieren, zwar auch richtig scheiße zu finden, aber eben mit einem Strukturbewusstsein daran zu gehen, ist auf jeden Fall, glaube ich, der richtige Weg gewesen über die Jahre. Und das hat mich dann auch irgendwie wieder ermutigt, Leute zu finden. Und da kam so das eine zum anderen, einfach durch das Spielen von Konzerten, Geben von Workshops, durch das Vortragen haben sich immer mehr Leute irgendwie angerufen gefühlt, sich mit Hip-Hop zu verbinden wieder, weil also in den Nullerjahren im deutschsprachigen Raum Rap in linken Zentren eigentlich ein Unding war, weil einfach sozusagen das Klischee-Stereotyp von Rap zu mächtig war. Und das hat sich aber wirklich über die Jahre geändert. Das heißt, es sind echt in den letzten 10, 12, 15 Jahren wirklich viele Hip-Hop-Acts im deutschsprachigen Raum an den Start gegangen. Und das hat sich eben diese Szene herausgebildet, von der ich immer geträumt habe. So. Und die wächst auch munter weiter. Das ist eben, was mich veranlasste, dieses Buch mit rauszugeben. Und tatsächlich auch die politischen Potenziale von Hip-Hop nochmal genau zu betrachten, was einfach als gegenwärtig passiert und tatsächlich den vermeintlichen Tabubruch als nicht Tabubruch, sondern als super konservatives Handeln zu demaskieren und dem tatsächlichen Tabubuch entgegenzustellen, in dem Leute, die völlig außerhalb einer Vorstellung dessen, was Hip-Hop sein kann, sind, auf die Bühne also den Leuten Bühnen zu geben und die ihr Ding machen zu lassen. Ich habe mal hier ein paar Fotos mitgebracht von Leuten, die aktiv sind im deutschsprachigen Raum, weil es mir immer wichtig ist, auch die Gesichter und die Namen dazu zu senden. Euer Arbeitsauftrag wäre dann natürlich, deren Channels zu checken und auf deren Konzerte zu gehen. Es gibt nämlich tatsächlich viele tolle Leute. La Nefera aus Basel tritt heute Abend bei euch auf. Leider verpasse ich sie. Mist. Es sei denn, die macht mir dahin auch noch eine Live-Schalte. Dann haben wir zum Beispiel eine Punkerin aus Leipzig, Pleike heißt sie, die sehr verschwurbelten Conscious Rap macht. Also das ist sozusagen eine Tonalität, die gibt es so noch nicht. Also ich bin dankbar, dass die da ist. Ja? Also Vorstellung, dass diese ganzen Leute irgendwie nicht Rap bereichern würden, tut mir richtig weh. Deswegen umso glücklicher, dass da so viele Leute sind. Ebo aus Wien, ganz wichtig, hat gerade, also auch für antirassistische Stimmen, hat gerade eine neue Platte rausgebracht, auch unbedingt checkenswert. Faulenzer ist eine Transfrau aus Berlin, die so eigentlich eher aus der Straßenmusik, Singer-Songwriter-Kram kommt und sich irgendwie auf Hip-Hop umgeschwenkt hat. Esrab aus Wien, Geschwisterpaar, super Arbeit auch. Lego aus Leipzig ist als DJ unterwegs, aber eben auch im Hip-Hop tätig. Haskara kommt ursprünglich aus Göttingen, wohnt mittlerweile in Berlin, hat auch gerade ein Album draußen, auch tolle Frau. Finna aus Hamburg, Monalina aus Leipzig, die hat eine PR-Agentur und kümmert sich eben, und ist DJ, kümmert sich um Acts, die sozusagen aus dem Rahmen fallen. Jasmo aus Wien habe ich dabei, die Homies aus Berlin oben machen eine Veranstaltungsreihe, wo es eben darum geht, DJs und Acts of Color, queere Acts of Color auftreten zu lassen, sozusagen. Die haben jetzt auch gerade mit der großen Petition rund um die Skandale und, was heißt Skandale, um die Straftaten von R. Kelly initiiert, wo es darum geht, dem Auftrittsverbot in Deutschland unterzujubeln, berechtigterweise, weil es eben nicht darum gehen kann, jemanden, der solche Dinge getan hat, der Leute sexuell traumatisiert, irgendwie auf eine Bühne zu stellen, dafür Geld auszugeben und den zu beklatschen. Cervantes hat vor 1,5 Jahren oder so seinen Trans-Coming-out gehabt. Unfassbar toller Freestyler, Beatboxer, Sänger, Rapper, Producer, ein Riesentalent. Lia Shahin ist eine Transfrau aus Hamburg, Beatboxerin, macht ganz tolle Arbeit mit Jugendlichen und geflüchteten Jugendlichen beim Rap for Refugees Projekt. LSD aus Berlin, Marie Curry könntet ihr vielleicht auch kennen, die gehört zu der Band Neon Schwarz aus Hamburg. Also ihr seht, das ist jetzt nur eine Auswahl und das fokussiert sich doch recht stark auf Hamburg, Berlin und Leipzig für den deutschsprachigen Raum, was damit zusammenhängt, dass sich da die Szene einfach, also die kommen nicht alle von dort, sind aber da über die Jahre hingezogen. Das heißt, das sind so eigentlich so die 3 Hotspots für das, was wir tun. Und da sind die Strukturen echt super. Viele von denen können auch mittlerweile tatsächlich einigermaßen gut von ihrer Arbeit leben, was natürlich umso schöner ist, dass es sozusagen nicht nur Schulterklopfer und feuchte Händedrücke und Applaus gibt, sondern tatsächlich auch den Kühlschrank füllt. Das ist ja im Bereich der Kunst und Kultur keine Selbstverständlichkeit. Also was ist jetzt das Besondere an dem, was wir tun, und was hat das auch mit Gegenwartspolitik zu tun? Ich habe über die Jahre immer wieder festgestellt, mich nervt eure behindertenfeindliche Sprache, mich nerven eure misogynen Frauenbilder, eure Homophobie, eure Transphobie, eure tendenziellen Nationalismen, die auch eben gekoppelt sind mit bestimmten Formen von Männern und Männlichkeit. Wir wissen, dass Gender und Nationalität tatsächlich Konzepte sind, die sehr stark aufeinander bezogen sind. Das äußert sich an vielen Stellen auch. Vielfach wird Rassismus nicht als Teil des Problems gesehen. Untereinander sind die Jungs teilweise, also dann hast du irgendwie einen albanischen Rapper und einen aus Sierra Leone und natürlich wissen sie Dinge übereinander zu sagen, die, wenn nicht rassistisch, zumindest kulturalistisch sind. Ja, das ist schon ein Problem, und vor allen Dingen gibt es auch eine Form von gegendertem Rassismus gegenüber Frauen natürlich, dass also zwischen der Thai-Note und der Polen-Note unterschieden wird oder so. Das heißt, dass da sehr wohl rassistische Stereotype auch eine Rolle spielen. Der Antisemitismus zeigt sich eben in dem Versuch, sich zu politisieren und dann irgendwie gegen die da oben zu sein, und dann ist man schwuppdiwupp bei großnasigen Strippenziehern und das ist also sozusagen gerade gegenwärtig die stärkste Debatte. Das hat natürlich auch sehr viel zu tun mit dem, was Farid Beng und Kollege sich letztes Jahr beim Echo geleistet haben. Auch wenn da nur die Spitze des Eisberges betrachtet wurde und sich nur an bestimmten Begriffen abgearbeitet wurde und nicht so richtig an dem, was sie sozusagen worauf die sich strukturell beziehen. Lookism eben das naheliegendste, Leute aufgrund ihres Aussehens irgendwie abzuwerten. Davon sind Frauen natürlich und insbesondere natürlich auch Frauen, die im Hip-Hop aktiv sind, besonders getroffen. Also die Fickbarkeit einer Person ist für einen Rapper einzig und allein auf seine Skills gemünzt. Für eine Rapperin gilt es natürlich auch in Bezug auf ihr Aussehen. Und was ich eben auch sehr spannend finde, dass der Autoritarismus tatsächlich, also die Idee, dass es so Leute gibt, die oben führen und dass es sehr stark hierarchisiert ist und es ist immer einer der Beste und der Härteste und dass du bist Alpha und ja, dass sich Männer sozusagen in ihrem männerbündlerischen Kult umeinander eben nicht egalitär denken. Das alles ist eben, was im Rap passiert. Und das ist aber auch alles, was in faschistischen oder faschistoiden Ideologien passiert. Und ich finde es wichtig, auf diese Schnittmenge hinzuweisen. Ich will nicht sagen, dass jeder Rapper Nazi ist, wahrlich nicht. Aber trotzdem gibt es einfach eine gewisse Schnittmenge, die ich in der Zeit, wie wir sie gegenwärtig erleben, in einer Ära, in der der Rechtsruck global zu betrachten ist, natürlich auch in Europa, in Nordamerika wissen wir es eh. Also selbst das gechillte Kanada hat ein paar Probleme in diversen Countys, ja. Das ist nichts, was ich irgendwie hinnehmen kann. Wir müssen besonders darauf achten, mit welchen Bildern, mit welchen sprachlichen Bildern und welchen Konzepten wir in die Welt gehen. Und in Jahren und in Zeiten, wo Menschlichkeit nicht mehr viel bedeutet, finde ich es nicht richtig, Menschen runterzuputzen. Einfach nur so, weil es Tradition im Rap ist. Ja. Und mir geht es nicht darum, irgendwas zu verbieten. Mir geht es vielmehr darum, tatsächlich, weil ich habe keinen Bock auf so eine autoritäre Staatsdoktrin, die sagt, nein, das darf man nicht und ihr seid jetzt weg. Mir ist klar, dass so dass so Zensurbehörden irgendwie auch selbsterhaltend sein müssen. Die sind natürlich nicht effektiv. Eine Indizierung kann auch immer ein zusätzlicher Support sein für einen Rapper, der Bock hat darauf, als gefährlich zu gelten. Wenn das Teil seiner Imagepolitik ist, dann ist es insofern zuträglich, als dass sozusagen selbst der Staat bestätigt, dass dieser Rapper gefährlich ist. Dann zählen halt andere Formen von Kapital. Genau, und das finde ich, mich unterhält sowas ausgesprochen schlecht. Und ich glaube nicht, dass das etwas ist, was wir uns als gesellschaftliche, kulturelle Nahrung ständig geben sollten. Deswegen finde ich es schlau und schön, Teil einer Gegenkultur zu sein, einer alternativen Kultur zu sein, die tatsächlich nicht sich nur als rebellisch geriert, sondern wirklich auch rebellisch ist im Sinne von, dass sie diesen Narrativen widerspricht und andere Identitäten zeigt, andere Stimmen zeigt, andere Themen zeigt, andere Körper zeigt. Und das ist natürlich etwas, was einen sehr verletzlich macht. Man ist sehr angreifbar, irgendwie in vielen Hinsichten. Die einen mehr, die anderen weniger, je nachdem, wie viel man von dem auf sich vereint, was sozusagen als herabwürdigenswert gilt. Aber der Umstand, dass wir existieren und dass wir das machen, was wir machen, macht uns auch stark. Und das ist eine schöne Erfahrung. Und vor allen Dingen gerade vor dem Hintergrund dieser Dehumanisierungstradition im Deutschrap ist es schön zu sehen, dass wir uns daran erinnern können, dass wir Menschen sind und auch Menschen bleiben, selbst wenn Leute Lust haben, uns zu entmenschlichen. Genau, das heißt, es gibt sowas wie eine antifaschistische, queere, feministische Rap-Szene, die aber auch in einer Zeit stattfindet, in der irgendwie der 6. Schritt vom 2. passiert, nämlich bevor noch der Gender Pay Gap geschlossen ist und irgendwie tatsächliche Gleichheit also nicht nur irgendwie auf dem Papier existiert, sondern auch in den Köpfen und im Umgang miteinander, gibt es schon den Moment, wo tatsächlich sowas wie Diversity und so LGBTQ-Themen, Feminismus Gefahr laufen, vom Kapitalismus im Allgemeinen, auch von der Musikindustrie im Speziellen jetzt für unseren Rahmen, aufgefressen zu werden. Das heißt, wir können uns Lidschatten von L'Oreal kaufen, der Feminismus heißt, und wir können uns 1000 T-Shirts kaufen für wenige Euros, oder Franken, die für H&M in Bangladesch produziert werden, wo aber was darüber steht, dass Feminismus irgendwie die Zukunft sei und. Also das ist schon ein Umstand, den ich recht bedrückend finde und der mir gar nicht gefällt, dass das sozusagen da die nächste Gefahr gibt, das nächste, worauf wir achten müssen. Aber irgendwie ist es auch schön, weil es nicht zu uns passt, uns hinzusetzen und die Hände in den Schoß zu legen und einfach da zu sein, sondern wir bleiben renitent, ja, und wir bleiben kreativ und achten eben auf das. Das heißt, wir haben gar nicht das Ziel, irgendwie in den Mainstream zu werden, wenn der Mainstream so uns eine bestimmte Kondition zur Verfügung stellt. Das heißt, wir wollen gar nicht den Rahmen. Natürlich wollen wir gehört werden, natürlich wollen wir Veränderungen, aber wir werden das so nicht mitspielen, wie es sich in Teilen schon andeutet. Und das ist, was sozusagen auch die eigene Queerness als quasi nicht aufkaufbares, undefiniertes, aber sehr wohl gelebtes ausmacht. Insofern lässt sich diese letzte Frage des Anti-Sexism Cell im besten Fall mit Nein beantworten, und das ist, wofür wir gegenwärtig neben den vielen anderen Baustellen auch kämpfen. Jawohl. Bis hierhin erstmal. Dankeschön.
Jawohl, danke schön, Sookee. Danke nach Berlin. Sookee wird bei uns bleiben, du wirst uns hören, wir sehen und hören dich für einen kurzen Moment nicht. Am Schluss bist du für die Diskussion natürlich wieder ganz vorne dabei, da gibt es wohl einiges, was die Leute noch aufgreifen werden, hoffe ich doch zumindest. Zuerst hören wir aber noch 2 weitere Perspektiven und wechseln jetzt für die nächste Keynote auf English. Big up to the translators. That was a lot of work, I guess. Now we do it the other way around. We switch to English and we switch from the artist, from Sookee. We try to broaden the perspective a little bit and go into the music industry. We got our next guest from London. A very warm welcome to Jess Partridge. Jess works for the PRS Foundation. She's a project manager for Keychange, which comprises of talent development programs for women across Europe. Most notably, obviously, they launched the campaign for the Gender Balance Pledge for festivals. Festivals around the world have pledged to have a 50-50 quote by 2020. Target. It's not a quota, it's a target. It's very important. But Jess is going to elaborate on that, of course. So you might have heard of Keychange because of the 50-50 target. Alongside, she's doing a gig guide in London. So whenever you do a trip and want to listen to some good music in London, grab In Stereo. Which is done by Jess and her friends. And it looks awesome. By just dipping into it, she's right, I guess. These are the best gigs around right now.
Yeah.
Very glad to have you here. The word is yours.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to give basically a rundown of Keychange so that you have a greater understanding of what we're doing. I won't go too far into it as a wider context because it's actually quite a complex program. It's not working. Oh, there you go. Okay, so as Andi kindly said already, Keychange invests in female talent and promotes gender balance through a pledge by the year 2022. So it's kind of comprised of 2 halves, and the original half, and this was all Keychange was ever intended to be initially, is a program for 60 emerging artists and innovators from across Europe, from 6 different countries in Europe, to benefit from showcases, collaborations, and a program of creative labs. So for the past year, I've spent taking this group of 60 amazing women to different festivals in all over Europe. We had all 60 of them at Talent Music Week. We had 10 of them at Way Out West. We had 20 of them at Rapperin Festival. So yeah, pretty varied. It was made up of innovators and performers. All the performers got an opportunity to play at the festivals as well. And the innovators got opportunities to speak on panels. And many of them had never spoken on panels before, so that was a really exciting opportunity for them. So the other half, as we've already kind of covered, is this festival pledge, which is promoting a 50-50 gender parity by the year 2022. So it was kind of invented by the festival partners. The initial 7 partners who came together to create the Talent Development Network decided that they wanted to commit to gender equality in a wider and more significant way. So together, as we picked who would be part of the program, they decided that they wanted to achieve a 50-50 gender balance by the year 2022. Some of them, so Iceland Airwaves and Way Out West, were already pretty much there. Some of them had a lot further to go, like BIME, which is our Spanish festival partner. And when we announced this, we were inundated with festivals saying, hey, we want to be part of this. How do we sign up? Why do we say that we will meet this target as well? So we kind of quickly scrabbled together something to say, this is how you sign up, this is what you promise to do, and we made it open to festivals and conferences to commit to different parts of it as well. So some festivals commit for their lineup, some for their conference, some for their commissions. Like classical festivals, it doesn't work as well to do a 50-50 gender balance by orchestra. It works better by commission, because actually, in reality, that's where the new talent is coming from. So now we have over 150 festivals signed up, as you can see, which is amazing. They're all from all over the world. It's not just a European program anymore. And Keychange is a growing international movement. I think I'm here, my boss is at South by this week. I was in Glasgow last week, so it really is becoming a huge thing. So this is Alexander Schultz. He is the man who runs Reeperbahn Festival, and is Helen as well, who runs Talent Music Week. It's actually Alex who came up with the whole gender balance pledge. We've perpetuated it, obviously, and signed everyone up, but it was him who decided that they really wanted to commit to something more. They have over 500 bands playing their festival each year, so it's a huge, it's a huge undertaking. And these are the partners, just in case you're wondering, the initial partners that run this talent development program with us. So we actually have a Canadian partner, so I took 7 of the more electronically focused participants out to MUTEC last year. And hopefully, we've applied for more funding through the EU, and hopefully in the future, we'll be able to add 4 new countries and names to this as well. So why do we do this? What was the point in Keychange? Why did it come up? To give you a bit of background, to begin with, the foundation that I work for, the PRS Foundation, we have a program called Women Make Music. This is our 5-year report for Women Make Music. So this shows you, basically, we have another fund called the Open Fund. We were getting no women apply to it. So what happened was we kind of copy and pasted it and made it only for women, to encourage women to apply, to make them feel like the opportunity was there for them as well. And this had a huge impact. Like I can never remember. It's like 79% of them had never applied for funding before, which was crazy. You know, they were all eligible for it before, but they just hadn't done it. So after 5 years of Women Make Music, we did a huge study, and Keychange was kind of born out of that. The idea for it, the idea of a talent development program, and concentrating on a group of women for a period of time was how Keychange came about. So this is another reason. I'm sure you've seen these images going around on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. It's pretty clear that there was an issue, and I think festivals in particular hold a responsibility because you do display it like this. You have all of the names in one place. Like, a label doesn't have their names in one place like this very often or anything like that. So they do have a responsibility to make sure that you can see a diverse range of acts. And as you can see, not all festivals do. So actually, Pitchfork did a really good couple of years of exploration into this, and they looked at, I think it was 70 festivals, 70 of the biggest festivals in America, to see what the gender balance was like. And these were the stats they were coming up with. And they didn't change year on year. And there's a couple of other people who are doing really good research in this area as well. And they have found there to be no change in the gender balance of especially electronic music festivals in the last 10 years. One of the great things about the program is we've engaged a bunch of incredible ambassadors. So Nadine Shah is one of the UK ones. We have others like Dua Lipa, Shirley Manson. God, I can't think of the others, but there are some incredible, Imogen Heap, incredible ambassadors for the project. And they have all not only benefited from it, but really passionate about what we're doing. So the results so far. Obviously, over the last year, we've been traveling to all these festivals, and the impact has been very visible for the participants of the program. We've hosted events everywhere. These are a few snapshots of Rapperin, Sookee, Iceland Airwaves, and also our big launch at the Canada House in London, which was where we announced the initial 45 festivals signing up to the pledge, which caused a huge press reaction, which I will go into in a minute. So these are the Keychange Associate Festivals. I'm not sure if this is entirely up to date, and I have been informed that actually one of them that's down as German is unfortunately Swiss. So there are 2 Swiss festivals signed up to this, which isn't very many. So if you know any and you want to get them to sign up and get on it, then go for it. Get in contact with me. You can get in contact with us on the website. It's really easy. So, as I said, huge press reaction. We were blown away by how many people wanted to write about this. And we've had kind of a second round, which basically, whilst we were going to these festivals, we were asking the participants what worked well in their country for gender equality, and also the areas which they think the areas that really need help. So through a year of this research, we created this manifesto, which is recommendations for everyone from individual companies to the European Commission, to the UK government, and specific to Brexit, and European Parliament in general as well. So with this manifesto, we got another huge round of press, which has been incredible. Do read the manifesto. It's on the website. It's the main thing on the website. It can help anyone from tiny companies or individuals to huge governing bodies on what actual people need in order to create gender equality. That's a boring one. So yeah, more press quotes. Sorry. As I said, we've actually had everyone from Fox News being positive about this to it's been quite an experience. Fox News, CNN, New York Times, places like that are all very positive as well, which has been great. And this is actually taken from the manifesto. You can kind of see exactly what it is we've done. So these were some of the issues. Labels being owned almost all by men. Only 2% of the most popular 600 songs in America were produced by women, which is really, really low, but maybe even higher than I'd expect. And also the 16% of registered women are songwriters on average. This was across all of our partners. We all got the local collection societies to tell us what their percentages were, and it was all pretty much the same, ranging from like the lowest in talent, 7%, to I think the highest in Sweden at like 23%. And yeah, here are actual stats in terms of 7 festival partners, 50 events and panel discussions is going up all the time. And this is an embarrassing picture of us all from the European Parliament event where we launched our manifesto. And this is a bit of a secret, but as like a sneak preview of what we're planning to do in the future, we are expanding the pledge to include not just festivals, but also other areas. Don't share this one yet online. I can see people taking pictures. We'll be looking for all kinds of music organizations to sign up and pledge to have a better gender parity in whatever way they want. These are just some examples of ways that they could do that. We're really excited to do this and get more people involved, because I think this is the one thing that's really necessary in what we're doing, and we're being asked all the time. And yeah, so if you want to get in touch, you want to follow what we're doing, see how it's going, head to these places, and feel free to grab a copy of the manifesto or the booklet, which has a bit more information about what we're doing, from me at the end. Thanks.
Thank you, Jess. We'll get you back up here for the discussion. Until then, we'll turn the attention to our third and final speaker of this panel. It's Esther-Mirjam de Boer from Switzerland. welcome, but she's going to talk in English to make things easier for everyone. And I'm happy to have someone here that is actually from outside the music business, but she is a businesswoman. She's involved with several companies, and Esther is co-owner and CEO of GetDiversity, looking to find more women on boards of administration in Switzerland, which is Verwaltungsräte. She is also involved with several companies. She herself is on boards of administration, so she knows what she preaches, and she has a column in the Handelszeitung in Switzerland, and she works for the Verband Frauenunternehmen. She's the president of the organization as well. So she's engaged in several very important projects, and we're happy to have you here, Esther. Take your time and give us all the infos you got.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, where is, here's the presentation. Yeah. I feel a bit not included somehow because I'm coming from a totally different world, from a different bubble. And in my own bubble, I belong to the left wing, I think. And here, I think I'm pretty conservative. So this is a totally different perspective for me today as well. GetDiversity has been founded 12 years ago with the idea of bringing more women into top management and on non-executive board level. And my partner and I, we bought GetDiversity 3 years ago, so we're second generation already. And we are expanding the whole business. It's about time right now. We are discussing gender quota. Actually, we're discussing gender targets in the Swiss legislation as well, but everybody is talking about quota. It's only about targets. And we feel this pressure from the business, and which is helping us as well to grow our business. Last year, we had a growth rate of 100% compared to the year before, and this year we're still growing, so we're trying to manage this internally. Myself, I'm of Dutch origin. That's not the reason why I'm dressed in orange today. I thought I'd bring some sun inside because the weather is so nice outside, and I'm happy that you decided to come here instead of enjoying the sun. I'm of Dutch origin, yes, that's true, but I grew up in Switzerland. And originally I'm a trained architect and came into business over several steps in my life. So what we're doing at GetDiversity is not only bringing more women onto boards, but bringing more diversity in general onto boards, which means age diversity, background diversity, whatever you think could be feasible for the strategy of the company we're working with. This is a music festival, and that's why I want to talk about diversity and in recruiting with an example from the music world. It's a very famous example, actually. And as in business, also in music, it is key that only the best come onto stage, and that's one of the reasons and one of the narratives we hear in business and in music why women are not represented very well on top levels, because they say only the best should be there, and apparently women are not good enough. We want the best talent, those who have the craft and the passion and the discipline and the excellence and the stage performance to come up to the top, which is the same in business as well. But the music industry, several years ago, or decennials ago actually, went into an experiment. And they started to do blind auditions. They hid those who were applying for orchestras behind curtains and let them just play without seeing them, because some said that when you just hear them, you can only hear the real quality of the person playing the music without seeing who it is. So the experiment was the question, would that change anything to the recruitment of musicians? And what do you think? Did it change anything? It was about classical orchestras, actually, in the US. And what really happened then was that the amount of women rose from 5% to 40%, which is a lot. And apparently, when you didn't know that a woman was playing the violin, for example, listening to the music would, only listening to the music would change the decision without seeing that it is a woman. Or any other diversity dimension, like fat people, excuse my direct words, or colored people, or whatever could be there, like thick glasses or something like that. So this experiment was run in 10 top orchestras in the US over a period of 40 years, and I took this from a very interesting book called What Works? Gender Equality by Design from Iris Bonnet, who is a professor at Harvard and also on the non-executive board of Credit Suisse. And if you want to learn more about the systematics of this kind of experiments, please read her book. It's available in German as well since last year. So, what I want to talk about is fair treatment in decision-making, because the decision-making often is not fair. We are biased in our decisions when we are talking about recruiting. So fair treatment, we can design this when we have decision processes that are systematically designed for equality, like the curtain, but there's other means to do so. Last year I was in a winery, and this person who was producing the wine told us, if you take away the labels from the wines and let people just taste the wines without knowing how old they are, if they're French or Italian or Spanish, from which region they come and what kind of brand they have, the results of wine tasting are so different from the results of wine tasting with labels. With labels, very expensive wines get very good results because they're known to be good. Without labels, sometimes even a 8-franc wine from Aldi rates very high. So now, what is real quality? Is it the taste of the wine, or is it the label together with the taste of the wine? You know, the label of the wine has an influence on your rating because you're expecting this wine to be better than the one from Aldi. And this is one of the mechanisms that behavioral economics found out. It's quite a young profession. And behavioral economics is taking away all those bias triggers from the processes so that we can have fairer decision. So we want to prevent biases when we make decisions. We've been talking about recruiting right now, and it's also about, in the business world, reviewing people, promoting people, developing people, and appointing people to top management positions. In recruiting, at entry level, most businesses in Switzerland and all over the world are pretty good already. We're into 50-50, so this is red, female, blue, male, very stereotypical. But over the steps up to the top, the amount of women is decreasing heavily, and at CEO level here in Switzerland, we are around 8%, I think, at the moment, depending on which statistic you read. And we call this the leaky pipeline, and the narrative around the leaky pipeline is still women don't want to go all the way up. I'm pretty nervous. I can't take it. Wow, it's impossible to make a straight line, sorry. Women don't want to go up this ladder. They're not good enough. They are different by biology. They don't want to fight all that way up, etc. The narrative is a lot about the women and their own fault that they don't get up there. But what we're working on with behavioral economical means is that we get parity on all levels. Talking about leaky pipeline, this is oil. That's where the notion comes from. When you have a leaky pipeline in the oil industry, you fix the pipeline, not the oil, don't you? And in business, or in music as well, of course, as one of the businesses, you want to fix the system, not the women. And that's very important. We have to change our perception where we have to change in order to find a solution. We need to change the system, not the women, to fix into the existing system. So I would like to talk about exclusive behavior here, because we need to understand what exclusive behavior is in order to understand what inclusive behavior could mean to create an inclusive culture. I want to share a little story of myself. I'm kind of a professional for inclusion and diversity and stuff like that. And I have a daughter. She is almost 13 already, but at the time she was in daycare. I brought her to the daycare institution, and there was a tall, very black man opening the door, having a North African name. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to give my daughter to this man. But then, in the same time, I thought, this is exactly this kind of exclusive behavior that we want to change. I have to turn on my system 2, Kahneman, system 1, system 2, slow thinking, fast thinking, and become inclusive at this very point as well, and say, hey, that's his profession, that's his passion, he wants to do this, and I just give him my daughter with trust. But I have to do this right now. And we have this kind of exclusive behavior, not only in management of men against women, but also in other areas where other stereotypes are active, like children's daycare, where we don't expect a man, a black man with a North African name, to be the right person to take care of our kids, in my case. So we have to become aware of social norms, the expectations we have, sociological imprint, how we grew up, our beliefs and stereotypes, which build all kinds of exclusive cultures around. And when becoming aware of this, we turn into an inclusive behavior, hopefully, where curiosity and multiple perspectives come to the play. We need courage and connection between different areas and different worlds and different bubbles. It's one of the reasons why I said yes to come here today, because this is actually kind of not my comfort zone where I'm right now. One is the industry, which is not my comfort zone, but the other one is also being on stage is not my comfort zone. But we need to connect and talk to each other and have the courage to get closer and become inclusive with each other. We need to be coping with VUCA as well. That's an abbreviation for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, which is running the whole digitalization a lot. And we need to be more welcoming experiments to find out what works and collaborate together. And that's the way we can build an inclusive culture. Coming to an end, if you want to join in this whole discussion on the business level as well, there are some nice hashtags where you can, through Twitter, or I'm more on LinkedIn actually, and many others as well. Better Together is a hashtag from the whole equality movement in business, which is led by Advance Equality in Swiss Business here in Switzerland, which is an organization of 100 big companies giving pledges for equality in the Swiss business. We Advance, of course, is also there. I always use inclusive behavior and an inclusive culture as well when we post something. From behavioral economics, you will find experimentability as one of the hashtags. From us again, vocability, behavioral economics, of course, and what works. And GetDiversity, that's our company. And I thank you very much for this part. And I'm very interested in what you would like to know from the business side. Thank you.
Thank you. Danke, Esther. All right, this is where hopefully Sookee will join back in via Skype in Berlin.
I'm here.
Yeah, she's here. We got your voice. We're going to have the image pretty soon, I'm sure. Big up to Christian, who makes all this work. And you guys are invited to join in as well. We want to have an open discussion, so let's start straight away. If anyone has any questions to any of the speakers of today, fire away, raise your hand. You're going to get a microphone. And you will be able to pose your question in German or in English, whatever you like best. Maybe you need a moment, maybe you just want to hear what we are going to discuss. We start this on stage in this case, but feel free at any time to join in whenever you like. We have heard the three perspectives, very interesting, and thank you for your insights and details, all of you. What I'm wondering is kind of the status quo. Like, you're doing what you do in the world we have right now. How hard or how great is it? Let's start with Jess.
I think in music right now, well, partly in entertainment in general because of Me Too, it's a really good time to be doing this. Like, we were pretty fortunate at that timing, in fact, because this conversation moved so quickly and so rapidly on. And in some of our partner countries, like Sweden, for instance, it was such a huge thing. Like, it had a base level societal change, which is amazing. Like, the music industry, however, is incredibly biased towards cis white men in general. So it's always going to be a struggle whenever you're not trying to take space from someone else, but whenever you're trying to fight for that same space, those same positions of power, those same decision-making opportunities, like, it's always going to be a fight. And there are always going to be people who don't like it and are defensive.
You had the beautiful figure of 2% of music producers in the US. Might be a hint that Sookee's 2% in Germany are somewhat right too. I want to pose the same question to you. How does it feel right now being part of the 2%? Is it like, yeah, we got the 2%, or is it, we can't stand a chance?
Well, it's both at the same time. You know, I've been doing this I started studying gender studies in 2003 when I was 19 years old, and ever since that I dealt with feminist theory and my own cultural practical work. You know, and 2003 is so far from now. You know, and I'm happy that the whole debate got bigger. Me Too was already mentioned, and that people, like, we had this problem in Germany for a long time, that we only had one feminist who was sort of present in media. That was Alice Schwarzer. She appeared to be the only feminist in public. But it was so wrong, because it made everybody refer to her all the time. Whenever I was talking about, okay, I'm interested in feminism, I study feminist theory, I have a feminist approach to my music, everybody was like, okay, it must be something, you're underfucked or you are Alice Schwarzer, or both at the same time. Like the stereotypes were even lower and even more annoying. And now people have heard of feminist ideas and have heard of equality and have heard of intersectionality and so forth. So you don't start at 0 or -10. You start -10. You start at somehowish something in a positive scale when you talk about it, and that makes it easier. Of course, you have more people who speak up. You have like the Keychange-Projekt, for example, as something I can refer to when I talk about it. That I'm not the only weirdo who want to see some females on stages, So there are other people who think somehow alike, and that makes it easier. But still, 10, 15 years are quite a long time, and sometimes I get bored by myself, explaining the same things over and over again. But if you decide to somehow get involved into social justice, like in a broader sense, you get used to repeating, But this is also the reason why I want more people to have, in public who engage in those topics. So first of all, that they are seen as well, and also second of all, that we can share all this work. So sharing is like both directions now. We need more people. Like the idea of having one representative is totally wrong. You have to, first of all, because of diversity. Second of all, to have those people in public, so they can share their personal views. Not the general idea, but their personal approaches. And third of all, so that I can refer to, okay, I don't want to come. I've been talking about this shit like this the last 5 weeks for 20 times. Please invite this person, that person, and so forth.
Let's pass it on here to Esther and get her perspective from the business world, to use your word, the weirdo on the scene. Does it still sometimes feel like that? Because we know it's been in the media. Other countries point their fingers to Switzerland that we are not doing a good job concerning gender equality in business.
Well, I started over 30 years ago. I'm 50 and started at the age of 19 as well with all those activities. And studying at ETH Zurich architectural department, it's just a few days ago that they really admitted that lots of things go wrong there. And it took us, me and others, 30 years to get there. I was actively involved in this, that it now is admitted and that action is taken. But no, I don't feel like a weirdo anymore. No, it feels much better than 30 years ago. And still, I think we have to differentiate. On the level of CEOs and some non-executive boards, we're extremely welcome with what we do, and they're really interested to bring those women up to the top. Really, they are intrinsically motivated. But we do have a level of middle management where men are just afraid of losing their jobs and losing their status when women start to take over. And we're just asking for parity. I mean, we're 51% females in the world population, and we're just asking for 50%, not more than that. So actually, it shouldn't be threatening, but it is. It's damn threatening.
And one can already hear, like, in here, it's nice and cozy to talk about these things. People agree, people woo, people push you. But out there, and most literally in Sookee's case in German rap, it's like being on a battlefield, literally. Like it can get pretty nasty, and I wanted to hear from all of you how, like, give us like a realistic picture on how things work, because people are still out there that don't like what you do. Let's start with Sookee.
Well, there are places where I just don't go. You know, there are a few festivals, huge hip-hop festivals in Germany. I think I would never put my foot on their grounds. You know, I know that it would be too much of a confrontation, especially when I'm on the stage. I don't want people to, to throw things at me. This is what they would do, and maybe there might be a few people who would be happy to have me there, but maybe I'm not strong enough to be on that kind of stage, but there will be others who do it. But I also make the experience that there are from time to time people who are interested in arriving in the present time, who invite me to interviews, for example, and they just want to have a clash of cultures somehow. They want to have the hyper-masculine battle rap dude meeting the underfucked, annoying feminist, and then the situation turns out to be interesting because, this constellation somehow is more than just beef and fight and battle. It's an exchange. And those are the moments where I sort of remind myself, where I feel reminded that people, that I also have to question my own bias, towards those people. And there are quite a few guys who I wouldn't have talked to 10 years ago, but who I can talk to and share stages nowadays. But it also always has to be sort of, I have like a huge concert at, for example, Splash Festival wouldn't work for me because there are too many aspects and factors that could get actually dangerous somehow for me, But if it's just an interview or a panel, it's way easier because I have a better overview who is there and who could sort of try to fuck things up. But but also like I've learned a lot about myself and my own bias and not being, not having the wisdom of the world in my hand, just have a strong opinion and a strong heart. And this is, like my own growth is for me sometimes an even more interesting story.
So choosing where to go and who to speak to and how you do it is something that I wonder how you feel at Keychange, because your initiative in the music world, it was like all over. People thought that you want to come in and put like new rules and laws all over the place. So you must have gotten some as well, like personally harsh reactions.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because we've had it from all different areas. So we've had negative press, like we've had my boss had a particularly horrible interview on radio, live radio, that was just someone there to take her down. It was another woman, and she just was completely vile, not listening, saying that we were taking opportunities away from men, things like that. It was quite impressive. And then you get the festivals. So we've had, obviously, so many festivals come to us and be like, we want to be part of this. But then we've had a lot of festivals, mainly bigger commercial ones, come to us and say, you're doing a terrible thing. This isn't our fault. You should be starting somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Which happens a lot, which makes no sense because you have to start somewhere, A. And B, we're not just starting with festivals. It just happens that is where the pledge has been aimed. Because it was started by festivals. And then also you get the emails. We do get attacked quite a lot. And we just launched a project with Smirnoff, who have a very different audience and maybe isn't so music focused. With that, we've seen the harshest replies. It's been an experience to be on the end of that kind of abuse online. And it's not personal to me, but I still find it incredibly affecting. And when I started this project, it wasn't something that I ever thought I would find affecting. I thought I was completely strong enough to deal with that and that I would be able, I would just be fine. But actually, it's detrimental to constantly, like you were saying about getting bored of yourself, constantly having to explain yourself, constantly having to defend what you do is exhausting. I'm sure, so you feel that in a big way as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Explaining myself and arguing about quotas and equality of women going up, etc. Yeah, that's normal. And it's exhausting. Personally, I've never had hate speech. I'm quite moderate in the way I express myself. I've always been quite moderate. I was almost excluded by the feminist movement 30 years ago because I was too moderate at that time. That was exclusive behavior as well. But yeah, at parties, in private life, wherever I go, and when they hear, I'm one of the two from GetDiversity, I have to talk about diversity, inclusion, quotas, etc. And
every time.
Yeah, and actually, what I'm interested in is far bigger than just that. I would love to give up my company in 10 years because it's not necessary anymore.
But yeah, same here. Just not having a company, just doing stuff.
I had someone recently ask me like what our aim was, what our final aim was, and I was like, to not exist anymore.
Right. Well, if our company was called Women on Boards, I wouldn't have bought it at that time. It's called GetDiversity, and that's a broader scope anyway.
Let's remind you that we are inclusive here, so if you want to join in and say something, please.
Yeah, I have a question. So there are men who are afraid because the women are coming and like getting their jobs and whatever. So what's your experience? How can you inspire these guys who are afraid of that? How can you change their mind maybe in a soft way, let's say? So they are like, oh, this is another perspective. Where do you see a pattern, something that they have, like a fear? And how can you educate or inspire them with something? What's like a typical topic they have?
I don't think that there's anything that you can do really when it comes to talking about changing the ways that things have been. Like they're always going to get defensive, and there are always going to be people who feel attacked. So I mean, there's plenty of ways that you can say it. There's things you can do, like explaining that there's enough room for everybody, and it's not just about taking somebody else's place. It's about expanding the industry as a whole. Mm-hmm. And making it more welcoming for everybody. You can explain those things, but I just don't think that it'll ever really mean that people won't feel attacked.
So what's your perspective? You said like in 10 years it would be great that there is not like a company.
Illusionary.
Yeah, so you see that something is changing in that. So like these guys are having less fear and they are more welcoming, so and having more curiosity about it. You see there is like a trend?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a slow trend. Because it's a cultural change. It's a generation project or several generations project. It's about our mindsets, and it's about how we grow up and how we tell our children what their roles in life are, etc. So it's going to take a lot of decennials to make this change. And it has to do also with the role models men see in other parts of life than only business. Yeah. I mean, we have to talk about what is the value of private life, of having children, raising children, etc., about friends and culture and anything else, not just business. Yeah. The identity of men in business is so much imprinted by just business and nothing else. Yeah. And that's a huge change. We all need to become more diverse and inclusive in our own identity building, and that will take some time.
May I add something?
Yeah.
I think there is no way to, there is no certain strategy you can always apply on every person, not on every male. Some males tend to listen to other males easier than if a woman's speaking up, for example. Same with, racism and other kinds of discrimination and power relations. I think in general we have to focus on how masculinity is performed in different kinds of spaces and areas in society, and generally we need to acknowledge that patriarchy is not only bad for females and queers, but also not the best idea for masculinity and males, because there is this idea of pressure. There is the idea of you have to deliver, otherwise you're going to be cut. And all this pressure and those expectations aren't good for males too. So finding out that it's not feminism versus males, but that it's feminism versus patriarchy, and that patriarchy also man suffers from the expectation patriarchy puts on males. So I think the debate we need and the experiences are broader than just like the idea of how we sort of share positions and jobs and so forth.
And one thing that always comes up in this discussion is the somewhat idea of quality. Mm-hmm. That some things have to be or have to be done a certain way in order to fulfill a certain quality. And often, especially in the business world, men look at women and think they are not producing results of the same quality, as you said. And the same is in the music world. Festivals say we need the headliners that are good, so to say, that are in the charts, that draw people and that make people buy tickets. So how do you cope with that? Because you always encounter the discussion of quality connected to gender.
Well, I think that arts and quality aren't, they're hard to combine, because, arts is, it's not like I'm producing, a chair, and even you can sit on it and it works, or if you sit on it, it breaks. Like arts, like music and whatever kind of paintings and so forth, are always perceived differently by different kinds of people. And someone who is financially successful, as a musician, doesn't necessarily have to be good on a stage, doesn't have to be a good live act. So, and someone who's not the best rapper might be a very good entertainer, and vice versa. So I think having certain measurements on quality in arts is like, it doesn't work at all. There are so many different aspects. It's way more complex, and parts that are out of our possibility to talk about, to evaluate. So it might work for other parts in society, like,
but still, numbers are used in art. You look at the charts, you look at how much people sell, you look at stream numbers. It is out there.
But sales can be bought, and there might be, like, I know the music industry from the inside. There's this CEO from the PR agency, and then there's this label boss, and they have a certain deal, and the next band who will be signed there has to be on this festival because the festival booker is somehow connected with that label owner, and so forth. There are those circles of writing, releasing an album, having the PR phase, doing the festival summer, and then having the tour. And this, there are schemes that are so narrow-minded and so full of business bullshit, sorry to say so, but like arts, like actual arts, the question of how good somebody is to entertain and to grab people, to move people, is not the main argument for a festival booking, for example.
So
it's totally the same in business, actually, because management is about how to deal with people, how to engage with people, how to be good on stage somehow. And the measurements we have in business is you look at the CV if someone has led already and has had P&Ls, a profit and loss responsibility, and if they had, we assume they can do it again. And those who haven't, they are newcomers and they're at risk. And when we look up and we see 95 or 90% of the leaders, CEOs, are being male, that's the pattern we do compare against. And of course, women don't match with that pattern as much as men do, because they have different looks to start with and different ways of expressing themselves, etc., etc. And an experience of raising children, for example, is one of the best leadership trainings that exist in the world, it just doesn't count.
Yeah.
I mean, try to tell your children, do this, do that. Do they follow you? No, they don't. It's just when you are a real leader to your children that they do put on their shoes in time. It's not just because they're told to.
And so what you say that in business it's actually very similar to art. You don't have just the parameters to look into and then judge.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's very interesting, because from the outside I think people would say, yeah, music is something you feel, but business is something different.
Yeah, there's a lot of feeling in business as well. I mean, leadership is often so irrational. Business is not rational. It's a lot about irrationalities. It's a lot about emotions. In marketing, that's pure emotions. It has nothing to do with logic.
But also, obviously, there's an issue within business which is wider than that in terms of people hiring in the image of themselves. So there are loads of extenuating factors, just to back up what you're saying. Like it doesn't matter if your CV isn't as good, but if you get along with the boss better, or because you will go and play golf or whatever thing that you're willing to do, that will bond you closer to your boss, which will then give you the promotion, which will then give you the CEO-ship. You know, you end up in the exact same position as it's not all based in any way ever on your actual abilities or your numbers and figures.
What's come up several times today already is something like a quota, that you have to kind of develop a system or figures where people can point to and say, this is where we want to go. You have mixed feelings, all of you, about this, I guess, but would it maybe be a way to make it easier for people, as an example, to follow, to just put a quota out there, so people can say, okay, we have 3 men and 3 women, so we're good. It makes things easier as well. How are your feelings towards that?
I'm convinced that quotas work. In the market, or when I talk to people, many, including women, fear that they're seen as Quotenfrauen, meaning they're just there because of the quota, not because of their qualification. What we tell those women is, you might be elected because of quota, but from the first day you have the full responsibility, the same responsibility as your male peers, and you have to do the same job. And there is no quota protection anymore for you. I mean, by law, you are responsible and you can be held accountable as well. And no quota is protecting you against your accountability there.
And obviously, Keychange works with, what is it again, a quota? Target, yeah. Exactly. Which is, for me, you've seen it already, it's kind of difficult to understand. You put out the 50-50 quota, but as a goal.
Yeah, it's a goal. It's
not something
it's not saying that if you sign up to the festival, to the pledge, that you have to make this 50-50. Like, that is it. There's going to be the Grim Reaper at the end with his axe if you don't do it. Yeah. That's not what's happening here. What we're doing is encouraging people to think about it. Because I think this is something I almost said earlier, actually. I think this comes up a lot where, you know, those who are privileged, they're often not bad. They're not trying to exclude other people, it just is a natural bias. So it's about getting them to recognize that, getting them to think about it, and getting them to continue acting in a different way. I mean, like you were saying about your natural bias when dropping your child off at playgroup. I think it's a really important thing that we can admit, hey, do you know what? I might have had this bias in the past and I have to do better, because if I don't, it won't be diverse. And again, to add to something else you said earlier, in terms of our own diversity and making sure our own lives have a diverse range of voices in it, like, that is down to you. No one else is going to do that for you. And that's something that everyone can work on. Where are you getting your information from? Are all the editors of the newspapers or publications that you follow, are they all white? Are they all male? Then change that. Like, no one else is going to change that for you.
Something else that often comes up, and Sookee has touched on it, does it sell in the end? Because money matters, at least in this world, for many, many people. And it has to do with, as you already said, Sookee, with the system we live in. But you can't ignore it. It's something that is there as well for festivals that Keychange is working with. So is working towards more diversity also working towards a less money-oriented society?
Well, yeah, hopefully. I don't know, it depends, if you just use the tool of diversity to make, just look at all the ads from like huge fashion brands, you have your Asian looking, you're a black person, you're whatever, somebody in a wheelchair, and it just looks like a cast. Okay, they made a check behind it. Well, we're done. Here you go with your diversity stuff. Most of the time I don't believe it, but I'm still happy for the black model and the model in the wheelchair to get the job, to get the money. But I want the higher ranges of responsibility and power to be changed. I don't care about the poster if the bosses, are still white, cis, straight males. But I just think that it's a loss if you don't hear all those different perspectives, which doesn't mean that if you're within a certain diversity group, it's all the same, Like we had this, there isn't such thing as a black narrative in general, because that person, and this is what intersectionality is all about, identities are so complex and so full of different aspects that the idea of diversity, might end up in, for example, a racial profiling like situation, that you expect something, a special behavior or a special look from a special person of a certain group. But, talking about power has always the potential to talk about hierarchies, and that it's not fair and not right to have people who earn more, who get more, who are worth more than others. And I think this debates about, equality and equity are always good for, to sort of to tackle the mindsets. They're super money oriented, as you said. So, hopefully things sort of, the one thing will lead to the other.
But I assume in the business world, it's going to be very difficult to convince people that choosing people is more, diverse people is more important than the balance at the end of the year.
I don't think that's an either or question. It is an and subject. I don't think that we have to lower the importance of the balance sheet, but there are other things coming up as well and becoming more important parallel to it. Diversity is an imperative due to the demographic development we have ahead of us, because probably we will not have enough people working for our economy very soon if we don't start to include everybody who can work for money. And still a little bit later we will have this, we will be happy for the digitalization, because we will be happy that a lot of machines will be working for us and paying for all the elderly people who are not able to work anymore. When I'm 75, I hope that I can still earn money, because I fear that I don't get a lot of money from the social security system due to the fact that at that time only 1 or 2 persons are paying into the social security system for my living, and today it's about 10. And therefore, I think diversity and inclusion as an imperative to have real diversity is an imperative for our society, and has nothing to do with this money question.
I think that pretty much every study that's ever been done in this area has shown that more diversity has been economically beneficial. I think in general, it's actually a very positive thing, whether that's because you're communicating your messages better into more people or whatever the reason it might be.
You double the talent pool, actually. Yeah. And this question, what's the added value of women in business, is a stupid question. I mean, it's good if it's as good as before. Why should it change anything? It's just doubling the talent pool is already enough added value, from my point of view.
And to finish up with, I was wondering, you've been doing this for 30 years, Sookee for 10 plus years, Jess for at least 2 years actively, or on the stage you are right now?
Well, I've worked in music for 14 years.
So we all know that we live in a quite interesting time in history right now. Obviously, there's no coincidence that movements that encourage diversity right now gain a little bit of ground. So how do you feel in the socio-political situation worldwide? Is it actually good that so many things go wrong because now people start to listen and are open towards a change? Or has it always been like this?
We do need polarity to grow awareness. That's the same in CO2, climate change questions. I was at the Klimastreik yesterday with my little daughter, and I really enjoyed this polarity. I haven't been at a demonstration for 30 years, I think, but we do need this to get changes going on, and therefore I would dare to say yes, it's good that things are going wrong. Although I don't like the fact that things are going wrong, I don't like the way politics are made in the US, but somehow maybe we need this polarity to move somewhere else in hopefully 1.5 years.
Same for you, Sookee, I wonder?
Well, there is a paradigm shift, obviously, but we've never been that far with human rights issues and all this publicity on all those things. At the same time, we have this huge shift towards right-wing, alt-right, fascist, whatever that spectrum is going to be called. And sure, like one sort of supports the other by having that obvious contrast. What it makes so difficult is the fact that we have emotionally to deal with this, with this same time situation, no Gleichzeitigkeit, I don't know, to have, huge successes, on the other hand, there is this feminist human rights advocate who is going to be in prison for more than 30 years, receiving more than 140 lashes, in Iran currently. You have those, the extremes are what sort of, there's a lot of tension, and that makes it emotionally very exhausting, so having huge successes and huge of, crowds and people who are, moving something. On the other hand, you have those rollbacks and that's quite something, I just, the saying, what a time to be alive is, is true somehow, that it's, these are times that matter actually. And I think the whole idea of taking care of oneself and for one another, beside all this, activism and being aware of political stuff and politicalizing oneself, all this digesting all of this is something that is underrepresented, as strategies within, like psychological and social strategies within and amongst ourselves. That is something that seems to be, not dangerous, but I think that needs to be more taken care of, and there should be more attention to it.
Let's take a look at the audience. Is there anybody who wants to contribute or ask anything? I can't really see. Are you all good? All fine?
Everything said.
Then I would say there's never everything said, but we would stop right here, if that's all right with you guys.
Of course.
Everybody
Sure.
happy? Thanks a lot. Nach Berlin. Thank you, Sookee, for doing this, for going through all the struggles today, to be able to talk to us. Thank you very much, Jess, and thank you, Esther, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you all
Thank
for
you for
listening, for sitting with us. Sam von Music geht in die zweite Runde jetzt gerade. Am 7. möchte ich euch Demotape Klinik empfehlen, neue Schweizer Musik zu entdecken. Könnt ihr auch mal zählen, was für Geschlechter das auftreten. Kleine Selbststudie starten. Das ist ein Ort, wo so Sachen anfangen, wo Künstler ausgewählt werden, wo später vielleicht auf eine größere Bühne kommen. Nicht wegen dem Zählen, sondern wegen der Musik, die es zu entdecken gibt. Möchte ich es euch empfehlen. Die hinten in der Box ab dem 7. und ab dem 8. dann natürlich das M von Music Festival. Merci vielmals.
Dankeschön.